At dawn, under a sky heavy with winter gray, the British monarchy moved decisively, and the target was unmistakable. Before most of the country had even woken up, senior officials inside Clarence House authorized the immediate suspension of all inheritance disbursements from the estate of Diana, Princess of Wales, to Prince Harry. The reason cited was not palace politics, nor was it related to the endless stream of memoirs or interviews that had defined the previous years. It was a phrase that sent a chill through the legal world and signaled a crisis of existential proportions for the House of Sussex. The official communique referenced material uncertainties regarding lineage integrity. The announcement was blunt, unprecedented, and deliberately narrow in scope. It did not reference media speculation or public sentiment. Instead, it referenced Clause 3 of Princess Diana's sealed trust, an obscure safeguard provision that had never before been activated in the history of the Windsor family. This provision was triggered by one explosive development that the world was only just beginning to understand: the emergence of a 29-year-old American woman claiming to be Meghan Markle's biological daughter. The palace statement, read aloud by a senior spokesperson for the Royal Household Council under the direct authority of Prince William, left no room for ambiguity. It stated that, due to unresolved questions surrounding the legal eligibility of beneficiaries named under the third clause of Her Royal Highness's Legacy Trust, all pending distributions to the Duke of Sussex and his dependents were hereby suspended until full verification was concluded. In the nuanced language of the court, this was seismic. Clause 3 governs lineage integrity, not behavior or reputation, but biological eligibility. Its activation signaled that the monarchy now considers the matter not merely scandalous, but structurally destabilizing. Within minutes, global markets reacted, British media interrupted regular programming, and U.S. networks shifted their focus from Hollywood headlines to royal crisis coverage. At the center of this storm was Meghan Markle, whose silence since the news broke has only intensified the scrutiny. What forced the Crown's hand was not rumor, but documentation. 48 hours before the freeze, palace legal officers received a confidential letter, first drafted in the summer of 1996, handwritten by Princess Diana and preserved for decades by her former butler, Paul Burrell. The letter, recently transmitted to the Royal Legal Office following renewed inheritance audits, contained revised instructions for protecting Harry and, critically, his descendants. Diana wrote, not as a constitutional figure, but as a mother anticipating risk. She referenced a blind Tibetan mystic she had met during a humanitarian visit, who had warned her of bloodlines divided and crowns fractured by charm rather than truth. The letter included a short 4-line verse, now formally referenced in legal briefs as the symbolic framework of Clause 3. It read that, when blended blood walks crown paths, truth sleeps until the heir is named. It warned that one son would wander beyond the gate, and his children would be judged by light, not love. At the time, the stanza was filed as a personal reflection, a poetic musing of a troubled princess. Today, it reads like a set of precise instructions. Royal archivists confirm that Clause 3 explicitly limits inheritance access to verified biological descendants of Diana's sons. The provision was designed, aides say, to prevent external manipulation of legacy, particularly where emotional vulnerability might be exploited. This is not the first time the palace has reviewed identity concerns connected to the Sussex household. In 2022, under Queen Elizabeth II, internal medical verification was quietly considered after both Sussex births occurred outside royal protocol with no third-party medical confirmation filed. The Queen allowed the matter to rest temporarily, prioritizing peace over procedure. That discretion has now expired. The catalyst was the public emergence of a woman known legally as AM, born between 1996 and 1997, a timeline that aligns precisely with Meghan Markle's departure from high school and her entry into Northwestern University. According to sworn statements reviewed by investigative journalists, AM alleges that she was born during Meghan's freshman year and was raised by relatives of Meghan's alleged first husband, Joe Giuliano. She has completed formal DNA testing showing over 99% maternal linkage to the Markle family. Her legal team insists she seeks no money, only acknowledgement and medical truth. She claims she came forward only after learning that Harry's children were central beneficiaries of Diana's trust, a fact that changed everything for her morally. The timing of this revelation has shattered the carefully constructed reality of the Sussexes. On January 12th, paparazzi photographed Harry and Meghan in a visibly explosive confrontation at a cafe in West Hollywood. Witnesses described Meghan carrying a thick document folder marked with sensitive labels. Harry appeared overwhelmed, his body language frantic and agitated. One staff member overheard Harry say words that are now haunting the royal corridors, accusing Meghan of lying to him before they were married. Meghan's alleged response was cold and sharp, insisting that the situation wasn't about their marriage, but about their future. The argument ended with Harry slamming his phone on the table and walking out, while Meghan remained seated, staring into the middle distance, reportedly calling an attorney within 5 minutes of his departure. Sources now confirm Harry attempted to locate AM through intermediaries and proposed a confidential financial settlement tied to a strict non-disclosure agreement. The offer was refused. 2 days later, the inheritance was frozen. This is no longer a theoretical dispute about royal tradition. It is an active legal reckoning, one that places Meghan Markle at the center of the most consequential inheritance crisis since the abdication of 1936. As the sun set on the 17th of January, the shockwaves from the palace's inheritance freeze had barely begun to settle when an even more explosive development shook the foundation of the Sussex narrative. For over a decade, Meghan Markle had publicly embraced the image of a modern royal, a woman of resilience and reinvention. But the revelation of a 29-year-old woman, legally designated AM, has detonated that facade. Just as the royal household confirmed the freeze of Princess Diana's trust clause tied to Harry's descendants, AM, represented by a Chicago-based legal team and a private medical ethics advisor, stepped forward at a confidential legal briefing near Inner Temple in London. Calm and composed, she addressed a room of 12 journalists, 4 legal officers, and a representative from the Royal Succession Oversight Committee. Her statement was direct, devastating, and clinically detailed. She stated clearly that she was not seeking a crown or financial gain, but simply wanted the truth confirmed and acknowledged. She declared that she was born in July 1996 and that her mother is Rachel Meghan Markle. To reinforce the claim, her legal counsel distributed notarized documentation of DNA results signed by a renowned geneticist affiliated with UCLA's Medical Ancestry Verification Unit. The analysis confirmed a 99.98% maternal match to members of the Markle family. That match on its own might have prompted intense curiosity, but what escalated the matter into royal crisis territory was the context in which it occurred. She was born just as Meghan began her freshman year at Northwestern University and was raised by relatives of Joe Giuliano, a man reported to have entered into a private Catholic engagement with Meghan in the summer of 1995. No public record of marriage or annulment exists in the civil courts. However, sources at the Vatican have confirmed the presence of sealed ecclesiastical documents from the Archdiocese of Chicago, which are now under review. As news of AM's claim broke, royal advisors raced to piece together the timeline, and what they found intensified their unease. In late 1995, Meghan graduated high school in Los Angeles. By mid-1996, she enrolled at Northwestern University. In July 1996, AM was born at a private hospital near Oak Park, Illinois. In early 1997, Vatican records indicate a sealed annulment request filed by a woman fitting Meghan's biographical profile, citing career-related separation and the presence of a non-baptized child. The implications are damning. If Meghan gave birth and surrendered the child for family rearing, then later failed to disclose this information in her immigration paperwork, royal courtship, or marriage preparations, it would represent a monumental breach of royal protocol, UK immigration law, and moral trust. Yet, perhaps most disturbing is what insiders are calling the genetic guardianship conflict. According to Clause 3 of Diana's trust, inheritance is reserved for confirmed biological descendants of her sons, with guardianship and lineage clarity required in cases of dispute. If Harry's children are found not to be his biological offspring, or if Meghan is found to have withheld a previous maternal tie, it could invalidate all Sussex claims to the legacy fund. Fueling the fire further was the now infamous video leaked on January 16. Recorded on January 12 inside Gravitas Cafe, the grainy CCTV footage showed Meghan and Harry engaged in a heated confrontation. Meghan, holding a black folder marked Highgrove Access, was visibly tense. Harry's body language was frantic. Though she has not appeared on camera, AM has now become the most scrutinized figure in the royal world. Her legal team has filed a petition to formally request biological acknowledgement in UK court with the goal of being added to the protected registry of maternal and paternal lineage connected to the royal succession. While she insists she has no interest in royal titles or compensation, the implications of her existence are impossible to downplay. If verified, she becomes the half-sister of Archie and Lilibet. Her birth predates Meghan's marriage to Harry by over 2 decades, and critically, her disclosure coincides directly with the financial freeze affecting the Sussex line. Her presence casts new light on Harry's increasingly volatile behavior. According to palace aides, he has been internally spiraling since learning of her identity, even privately questioning past events surrounding the births of his own children. The Royal Medical Ethics Committee has reportedly convened to discuss the possibility of requesting independent verification of Archie and Lilibet's biological records, a move the palace describes as a last resort, but one now considered a live scenario. As the monarchy reeled from the emergence of AM and the unprecedented inheritance freeze, new attention turned to a quieter institution long associated with veiled truths, the Vatican. On the 17th of January, L'Osservatore Romano, the official newspaper of the Holy See, published a brief and unusually coded note in its classified bulletin regarding sealed correspondences submitted during audience proceedings in 1995 and 1996, involving the late Diana, Princess of Wales. The Holy See confirmed the preservation and integrity of said materials under interfaith privacy provisions. To the public, it meant little, but to those within the palace's legal corridors, it confirmed what had long been whispered. Diana had submitted a sealed letter to the Vatican along with a private account of her spiritual fears over her son's futures, particularly Harry's. According to a senior clerical aide with knowledge of the correspondence, Diana had been introduced to a blind Tibetan mystic during her humanitarian outreach in the early 1990s. Moved by his warnings of divided bloodlines, fractured crowns, and false heirs, she allegedly made 2 formal records of the encounter. One kept by her butler, Paul Burrell, the other submitted during a confidential audience in Rome. That document, now known internally as the Hidden Heir Letter, reportedly includes prophetic lines about one of her sons loving someone not for who she is, but for who she presents, and warning that through her, others would try to wear the crown without bearing its blood. The Vatican has not confirmed the contents, but in recent weeks, church officials have granted unusual access to the Apostolic Archive following multiple formal inquiries by the British Royal Legal Office. Simultaneously, sources within British intelligence confirmed that MI6 has reactivated surveillance protocols surrounding Meghan Markle's early years, particularly the period from 1995 to 1998, which now appears pivotal. What they are uncovering may shift the entire foundation of the Sussex legacy. Central to this unraveling is Meghan's alleged secret marriage to Joe Giuliano, a security consultant from Pennsylvania, whom she was romantically linked to in the mid-1990s. Until now, Rumors of a Catholic wedding and subsequent annulment had been dismissed due to lack of civil records. But following AM's emergence and a tip from the Giuliano family, investigators traced a forgotten paper trail not through civil courthouses, but through the Vatican itself. Insiders confirmed that the Archdiocese of Chicago had processed a sealed annulment request in 1997, citing non-consummation and conflicting life paths. The file was then transferred to Rome under canon law, a routine step for high-profile or sensitive cases. The request included a reference to one unbaptized child and a plea for full privacy due to the woman's potential public life. While such personal decisions are not inherently scandalous, their undisclosed nature becomes problematic when entering the royal family. Royal marital vetting, especially for heirs to the throne, requires full transparency on past relationships, legal bonds, and religious affiliations. If Meghan failed to disclose a previous Catholic marriage, annulment, or a child born from that union, it constitutes a violation of royal marriage protocols. More damning still, these facts would have impacted the legitimacy of her marriage to Harry under Church of England customs and could invalidate certain legal claims made in her UK immigration paperwork. One royal legal advisor, speaking anonymously, said that this isn't about shame, it is about omission. Meghan walked into the royal gates with pages missing from her life story. Now, those pages are being reassembled, and the consequences are seismic. By the morning of the 18th of January, 2026, the House of Windsor had shifted from stunned vigilance to coordinated containment. What began as a whisper had now escalated into a full-blown institutional crisis, demanding a swift response from every tier of royal leadership. The trigger was not just the inheritance freeze under Diana's third clause. It was what followed: Vatican confirmations, Meghan's silent legal maneuvers, Harry's mounting emotional instability, and the risk that the monarchy itself might be implicated in a transatlantic deception. From Windsor Castle to Clarence House, a new strategy emerged, and it bore a name: Legacy Lockdown. At the heart of the response was Prince William, now viewed internally as the monarchy's executive in waiting. Known for his caution in public but assertiveness in private, William wasted no time. On January 17, he convened an emergency session of the Royal Succession Oversight Committee and issued an executive directive to suspend all claims, disbursements, and ceremonial references linked to the Sussex line until verification is complete. The message was cold, legalistic, and necessary. A senior aide to William told the press off the record that this was not an act of vengeance, but of asset protection that was reputational, legal, and generational. That same day, Meghan's name was scrubbed from the public archives of the Center for Early Childhood, a royal initiative long associated with Princess Catherine. The removal was quiet but deliberate, a signal that institutional memory was being rewritten. While William coordinated legal firewalls, Princess Anne, already instrumental in confronting Meghan over the Saudi diamond scandal, assumed the role of moral sentinel. At Sandringham, Anne chaired a closed-door session of the Royal Charitable Alliance, where she tabled a formal motion to freeze cooperation with any organization linked directly or indirectly to Archewell. The motion passed unanimously. Anne then summoned the Royal Council's internal auditors and requested a full forensic review of royal affiliated grants, donations, or events that had involved Harry and Meghan from 2020 to 2023. She reportedly told council members that they would not be caught complicit in something they never consented to, and that the institution did not authorize the narrative, nor would it carry the fallout. As the palace walls closed around the Sussex legacy, Princess Catherine continued playing the long game with quiet appearances, controlled statements, and strategic symbolism. On January 18, she appeared at a children's hospital in Leeds, smiling, poised, and dressed in a navy ensemble that echoed Princess Diana's signature palette. When asked about truth and legacy, she answered simply that dignity is the language that outlives opinion, It wasn't a soundbite, it was a warning. Insiders later revealed that Catherine had advised William weeks prior to prepare for the emergence of sealed records, and that she had urged discretion in every internal memo, including the inheritance freeze decision. She sees legacy as a garden. You don't just protect it from storms, you remove the weeds when no one is watching. Behind the scenes, Catherine coordinated with the Royal Communications Office to align the family's public tone. No denials, no drama, only visible unity and strategic silence. With the scandal expanding beyond Meghan's private life into questions of royal integrity, the monarchy implemented 3 new internal protocols. The no reference rule dictates that no royal event or speech shall mention Harry, Meghan, Archie, or Lilibet until succession and lineage are legally confirmed. The frozen archive clause mandates that all joint projects, charities, and digital media referencing the Sussexes are archived under restricted access. And finally, the contingency custody prep involves a confidential team assembled to examine legal avenues for royal guardianship over the Sussex children if the current custodial framework collapses. As of January 18, the monarchy's position is no longer reactionary. It is defensive, deliberate, and, according to royal watchers, permanent. As the palace fortified its internal walls far across the Atlantic, a very different collapse was underway. Not behind closed doors, but in full public view. In Los Angeles, Meghan Markle's media persona, once shielded by elite PR firms and reinforced by glowing celebrity endorsements, was eroding slowly at first, then all at once. The first domino fell when Tyler Perry, once hailed as Meghan's protector and post-royal refuge provider, formally severed ties. On January 15, Perry's legal representatives confirmed that he had no ongoing contractual, residential, or personal affiliations with the Duchess of Sussex. The carefully worded statement was brief but brutal. Insiders revealed that Perry had grown deeply uncomfortable with what he viewed as Meghan's strategic manipulation of their friendship. It wasn't just about unpaid debts or the lingering whispers of unreciprocated generosity. It was about being caught in the middle of a storm he never consented to. He offered them a lifeboat, one associate said, and then realized they brought the storm with them. According to Hollywood insiders, Perry's quiet exit sent a chilling signal across the entertainment industry. Meghan Markle was no longer a protected asset. She was a liability. The ghost of Oprah Winfrey's fall resurfaced as soon as Perry walked away. In 2021, Oprah had tied her brand and her journalistic legacy to Meghan and Harry's explosive claims in their CBS interview. But by 2023, fact-checkers, biographers, and even neutral analysts had begun to unravel inconsistencies. Sponsors pulled out, media trust dipped, and Oprah, once untouchable, became unusually quiet. Now, in 2026, industry figures quietly admit the Oprah-Meghan association became a blueprint of reputational risk, and with Perry following suit, a once solid wall of A-list allies was now paper thin. Behind the scenes, executives at Netflix, Spotify, and CAA began re-evaluating their Sussex commitments. 2 new projects with Archewell Audio were reportedly shelved. Meghan's upcoming wellness memoir lost 2 major publishers within 48 hours of the Tyler Perry split. Even her skincare line stalled after several brand ambassadors declined to sign on. Hollywood's mood had changed. No one wanted to be the next burn bridge. One anonymous producer stated that she doesn't build partnerships, she builds narratives, and when those collapse, she disappears. As reputational cracks deepened, Meghan's team initiated a controlled pullback from public-facing platforms. Updates on the Archewell site slowed, and staff began issuing LinkedIn farewells. Instagram influencers, once proud to partner with Meghan's brand, now use more cautious language. Meghan's lifestyle brand, once teased as a blend of luxury, motherhood, and philanthropy, quietly dropped its spring 2026 product line. No announcement was made. In its place was silence. And in Hollywood, silence doesn't equal strength. It signals retreat. Back in Montecito, insiders confirmed that staff reductions had intensified. Deliveries ceased. A-list guests stopped visiting. Paparazzi reported Meghan remaining indoors for nearly a week, a rare break in her usual public rhythm. Security presence diminished, and rumors of staff pay delays began to leak. The fortress was cracking, and Meghan was running out of defenders. By the evening of the 18th of January, 2026, the Montecito estate, once a beacon of escape and reinvention, had grown ominously quiet. The glamour, the prestige, and the bold narratives once wielded by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry had all but dissolved into legal filings, inheritance freezes, and institutional rejection. But now the focus narrowed to a single figure, Prince Harry, alone, unanswered, and unmoved. The palace's silence had already spoken volumes. But when Lord Pembroke, a senior figure in the Royal Advisory Council, gave a veiled public statement on January 17, it marked a shift from quiet distancing to institutional redefinition. He stated that in modern monarchy, legacy cannot rely on assumption, and that truth is not cruelty, it is clarity. It was the clearest acknowledgement yet that questions about Archie and Lilibet's biological eligibility were no longer confined to tabloid whispers or sealed court documents. They had now entered the legal, ethical, and dynastic core of the House of Windsor. Inside Clarence House, King Charles convened a midnight emergency session with Princess Anne, Catherine, and Prince Edward. The outcome was a unanimous vote to activate Clause Regent 14, a rarely used provision allowing the Crown to pause recognition of any descendants whose lineage is under documented and active dispute. In direct response to this institutional separation, on the morning of January 18, Prince Harry reportedly left the Montecito estate in a private black vehicle. According to staff, he took only a duffel bag, a stack of legal documents, and a leather-bound copy of his mother's 1997 will. He did not say goodbye. He did not take Meghan's calls. His destination was a private cottage near Big Sur, owned by a former army colleague, a place where he had once hidden after his deployment in Afghanistan. For Harry, this was more than distance. It was a symbolic retreat, a return to solitude in the face of truths he could no longer escape. One palace aide, briefed on his condition, shared that it wasn't rage Harry was feeling, but loss. He had lost everything he once rebelled for. But perhaps the moment that sealed this turning point came when Paul Burrell, Diana's former butler, walked through the gates of Buckingham Palace on January 18. He carried with him a sealed velvet pouch long kept hidden in his personal archives. Inside was a handwritten letter from Diana, penned in May 1997, just months before her tragic death. The palace has not released the full text, but excerpts confirmed by reputable sources include a prayer that Harry would remember that love and legacy cannot stand if the other falls. The Royal Legal Office immediately archived the letter under sovereign protection and used its contents to affirm the continued freeze on inheritance funds. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle remained in Montecito, her legal team scrambling to reframe the narrative as a witch hunt rather than a verification of fact. On January 19, Archewell's legal counsel attempted to petition for a judicial review of the inheritance freeze, citing ongoing trauma inflicted on minor children due to institutional bias. The court date was rejected pending DNA evidence, which has yet to be provided. Her PR firm released a lukewarm statement calling the palace's actions reminiscent of old-world prejudice disguised as procedural integrity. But the press, once sympathetic, showed little interest. In the final hours of January 19, King Charles issued a brief televised address to the nation. Dressed in dark gray, seated beside Princess Anne and Princess Catherine, he spoke not of scandal, but of legacy. He stated that a monarchy must reflect the clarity of its people, not perfection, but permanence. He said that they do not close doors easily, but neither do they leave them open to confusion. He paused, then added that they are stewards of time. and time has drawn a line. That line was clear. No inheritance disbursements without lineage verification. No restoration of Harry's privileges. No engagement with Meghan's legal narratives. No contact between Archewell and royal charities. It was not a punishment. It was a final separation. As Buckingham Palace lights dimmed, a single quote circulated among royal staff, reportedly shared by Princess Catherine after the final council meeting. Sometimes, to protect the crown, you must let go of the prince. The fairy tale was over, but the monarchy, battered, tested, and now fully refortified, remained silent, sovereign, and unshakable.